Very good. So where would you like to start?
Well, maybe just checking in. I see a couple of familiar names and a couple of names I don't know. Is everybody familiar with what we've been doing, the study of why is this happening to me again?
For me, I'm new to this group, so I'm not so sure about what are we doing here.
Okay. Well, then we'll answer that question. Anyone else?
I am not familiar with the book, but the title itself, I think I kind of have an idea of what it means, but I'd like to know the details, of course, as much as you're willing to share. Thank you.
Cool. I feel so blessed that the universe reserved that title for me. I actually published the book about, going on 26, 27 years ago. And I was actually, a couple of years before that, I was invited to write an article for a singles magazine in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I was living in Fort Lauderdale at the time. And I was working on that article and turned around and restarted writing it and went back to look, and the opening line was, why is this happening to me again? Why are all people the same? And it was like, that's the title of my book. And I felt very pleased that the universe reserved that title for me, because virtually everybody hears the title and goes, yeah, that's the story of my life. So the idea of this whole body of work, the idea of the book is, let's see where to start. Probably the greatest atrocity done to us as human beings down through the ages, and that we've bought into, is that we've had hidden from us the fact that we are by nature creators. Each one of us is a creator. And, everybody loves that idea when their creation is going well. And when their creation isn't going so well, they know whose fault it is, and their name is always them. It's always somebody else. Is there somebody in your life that if they changed, your life would get better? And to the person who answers yes to that question, which is virtually everybody, and I include myself in that, to the person that answers yes, I'd like to repeat that old child's rhyme of liar, liar, pants on fire. What you're swimming in, what you're experiencing is a product of what you've created and what you've set up inside of you. And what you set up inside of you energetically, what we know from quantum physics now, is that with what we hold within us, we draw, we resonate, we pull people in to play out with us whatever our creation is. So we get co-conspirators in creation, and we become their co-conspirators. And most everybody who doesn't want to be responsible for what we might call the negative aspect of their creation has a pat line. And that is, it's your fault. You're to blame for what's happening in my life. But when I realize that I'm swimming in what's in me and what my life is, then waking up to that, I realize I have to acquire a set of tools with which to change my creative process. And my creative process is the end result of thousands of generations of creators who fall into patterns. And oftentimes those patterns leave us in a place where hopeless and helpless seems to be the only option. I started to develop this work about 50 years ago. Actually, many lifetimes ago, but in this lifetime, the last 50 years, I've been working in this venue. And about 10 years into this work, I came in touch with the ancient Aramaic language and discovered through a series of purposeful accidents that the word forgiveness doesn't mean I'm going to let you off the hook for what's happening inside of me. The word forgiveness in the ancient Aramaic language means a tool with which I can go inside myself, uncover the unconscious parts of my own creative process, and bring correction to it. And so I can let go of those aspects of my creative process that aren't serving me, and I can consciously, purposely build into doing something different. So since I discovered that, the last 40 years of my life has been full-time dedicated to understanding how that process works. It's really, the question of the ages. It's what all of the philosophers, all of the theologians, all of the thinkers of eternity have gone looking for. And rather than telling people this is how you're supposed to live, it's here's a set of tools that will uncover the truth of who you are, and you'll know exactly how to live. You'll know exactly what your life is for and what your creative process is about. And that changes the game for everybody. So in a nutshell, that's what this work is about. Does that make sense for everybody? Any questions or thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it totally makes sense for me. It's more like a consciousness workshop. Yeah, like bring consciousness in and uncover the unconscious part of you
Right.
and correct the path.
Yeah, in the ancient teachings, they said, take care of the heart, for out of it are the issues in life. And that word heart in that ancient teaching would be the unconscious. Take care what's unconscious in you, because that, as long as you've got an unconscious dynamic happening within you, is what's going to show up in your life. And my take in the years of doing this work is that we are not designed to have an unconscious mind. We are designed to be fully conscious at any time we choose of anything that's going on inside of us. But because we live in this blame game, because we live in this denial game, and denial specifically in this work is defined as when I think or speak as though something outside of me is the cause of what's happening inside of me, I'm in denial. And when I go into denial, by the act of denial, I have to dissociate from or hide something from myself, the part of me that's engaged in creating what it is I say I don't want. And by definition, that creates an unconscious mind, an unnatural condition. And so what we're looking to do is to offer people the tools with which to open what in the ancient teachings was called the veil of the temple, the barrier between the subconscious and the unconscious, and clean out the junk, clean out the generational patterns, clean out the rage, the fear, the grief, the guilt, and recognize who we are. One of the first questions I ask people is, have you ever held a newborn child? And I invite everybody to go back to the moment where you first held a newborn, just literally be with that newborn energy and tap into the essence of the newborn. And having asked the question of tens of thousands of people all over the globe, describe for me the essence of your newborn, we get a list, and the list is always, every word on that list is always some variation on the theme of love. And so I ask the person who's tapping into the essence of that newborn, so is the newborn loving you, or is the newborn love? And everybody thinks about it, their eyes get kind of wide, and it's like, obviously the newborn is love. So most of us have been born and bred into cultures who have a specialty, and the specialty is knocking the experience of love out of us and then sending us out to find somebody to love us or find somebody to love. And we come up with a totally errant definition of love. We try to do love rather than be love. We have had our true nature buried by the generational patterns of hostility and fear. And this work is about uncovering the truth of who we are, introducing ourselves to the truth of our being, and then cleaning the gunk out, the junk that never belonged, forgiving every form of fear, hostility, rage, guilt, grief, drama, and trauma, and stepping into conscious creatorship. That's what we're here to do. That fit? Make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Gina, how are you, young lady?
Yes.
Yeah, it totally made sense, but from my perspective, I feel like everyone has their unique journey. Takes a lot of practice to that, whatever you call consciousness or awakened road. So I feel like it still takes a lot of practice.
It's work. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
It is seriously work, yes.
I
Oh, I really appreciate you asking, sweetheart. Lovely to see you. First of all, I need to ask Yinka, what is different, Yinka, in your home?
Because my daughter's birthday, so we've got a lot of birthday stuff behind me.
No, you've got these big white cabinets. Are they normally there?
Yes.
Oh, are they? Oh, okay. All right. Maybe it's at a different angle. It was bugging me. Michael, sweetheart, I really appreciate you asking. Thank you. My mother's passed now nearly 3 weeks, and actually, okay, I just before I came on here, I apologize for being late. I did this kind of Akashic record cord cutting sort of jazz, and I went on that Zoom call in this. My mother's, well, she's actually getting cremated this weekend. She's having an unattended ceremony, and it was only a couple of weeks ago. It was the anniversary of my son, so I was really down, right? And it's a lot to cope with. But my energy has shifted since doing that call tonight. So I'm
Awesome.
super grateful. Awesome. I'm still doing my Wednesday forgiveness worksheet with a couple of ladies.
Wonderful.
And I know it is, and they're magical. And, one described it as, I look forward to doing this transformational work, were her words.
Wait.
So there we are. That's kind of up to date where I am. I'm a bit upset. Well, I'm a lot upset actually, but I'm not going to dwell too much on that. But I want to say goodbye to my mum. She didn't have a very good ending, I don't think. But one of my messages was in this sort of thing that I did was let go of the past, present, and future trauma and the grief. And
sounds like good advice.
Yeah, but that was what came to me, in this. So
Nice.
So I'm feeling very grateful and grateful to be here, grateful that you're here, and I love life anyway, despite it being as it is.
Awesome.
How are you, Michael?
Well, one of the things that you bring to mind is bring to awareness is something you've heard me say more than once as we've been doing these sessions, and that is, in order to heal, you've got to be out of your mind. And it sounds like what I hear you describing, Gina, is that you're getting better and better at being able to look at your mind. And, this is one of the tools of this work is to be able to become the thinker apart from the thought, the feeler apart from the feelings, the actor apart from your own actions, and realize that you're not that. And it sounds like you're just getting better and better, being able to go, oh, there's some trauma in my mind. Okay, I'll work with it. And that's not who I am. And that's just a major breakthrough place. So that's awesome. And as Ray said, it's a new level of consciousness. When we're coming from the consciousness of old stored trauma, pain, generational memories, things can get pretty heavy. We step out of that and awaken the consciousness of being, the consciousness of that, the truth of who we are as love, the whole game changes. So nice to see you changing your game. That's awesome. Congratulations.
Well, much gratitude to you. I thought you were going to tell me to press on the microphone on your radio show and listen to the archives. That's the only answer I get. Forgive me for laughing when I ask you a question. Press on that radio. And
Yeah.
I'm making light of it. I hope you don't mind.
Go for it.
Bless you.
Can I just say
Awesome.
for those that are new that have not been to this session before, that this session is actually on the second and fourth Thursday of every month. It's only slightly different this month because we had Thanksgiving. So this is on twice a month, and we do go through the practice in the worksheet. We have a 5 a.m. club as well. Plus Michael has his radio station every day. So there is lots of opportunities, which I'll put in the chat for you to get to know more of these teachings as well. Just want to say that
Cool.
for new ones, yeah. So
Yeah, we've got a website, and our website is www.why.org. It's over 20,000 pages these days. You can download the book free in any one of several languages. I wish we had it in Mandarin or an Oriental language. And the closest we've got is geographically, I guess, is Farsi in the Middle East. But other than that, ultimately, what we're committed to doing is making these tools available to every mind, heart, and being on the planet. So you can go to the website. We have the world's only forgiveness app. If you go to your app store on your phone and type in the words Heartland, Heartland, one word, Heartland Aramaic, Aramaic, forgiveness, you'll be looking at the world's only forgiveness app. Download it. You can do the worksheet process on it. You can ask us questions. You can access the website. There are lots of tools available right on your phone through the app. And so you're welcome to access it in any and every way you wish. You can download the worksheets. We've got a YouTube channel. Just go onto YouTube and type in Michael Rice, RYCE. You'll find dozens of videos. And then 5 days a week from 1 until 2 o'clock, my wife and I do a radio show called Mind Shifters Radio. It's an internet show. If you go to our website, you'll see a microphone there, and you can just click on the microphone and you can listen on your computer if you don't have access to cell phone or phone service in the U.S. If you've got the ability to call in, most people just call into our radio show. And it's basically a conversation like we're having here. It's been going on for 11 years, 5 days a week, an hour a day. There are over 4,000 hours in our archives. You're welcome to access those. And any support we can be, that's what we're here to do, is give people support for using the tools.
And I've put all that in the chat as well for anybody that wants to find any of that information Michael's just shared.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Michael?
Yes, Corey.
I have a question, and I think I already put it, but it's still, I think I have, it's about blame. So I mostly, or how can I say, I notice when I blame, or the first step for me is to notice, am I blaming? Or because sometimes I am so identified and I think, yeah, that's so true. And he is so mean and that. And when I notice that I do that, and I don't know, what I then do is mostly that I want to stop that and to see how can what's about that? How can I go there deeper? And that is what I don't know, how I can really work on that and go on with that to solve that.
Well, my offering would be, I think you've been in several of the sessions where we've done worksheets.
Yeah.
So the first thing to do is to do what you know to do, and that's pick up the tool and use it. Put the pen to the paper and start doing the worksheets. Mm-hmm. That's the starting point. Mm-hmm. That's the core tool that will allow you to collapse the mind of blame and access what lies underneath it. Now, that can be a challenge because, if you think about it, look at the people that the family system that you came from, mom, dad, aunts, uncles, cousins, sisters, brothers. How many are living in the blame game? It's actually, there are a lot of people who are talking about their fear of this one world religion that's coming and it's going to take over the world. Well, the one world religion's here. It's been here a long time. It's called the religion of blame. Mm-hmm. It's called the religion of somebody else is responsible for what's happening in my life. And it's pretty much taken over the world.
Yeah.
The last thing people want to do who live in that religion is give it up. And face what it is that they've been, the energetic dynamics from within themselves that they've been literally putting into their brain's image of everybody else. One of the challenges of this is that when we live in denial, when I think or speak as though something outside of me is the cause of what's moving inside of me, I literally hide a part of my mind from me. I dissociate from it. By hiding it, I literally, by pushing it down, I push energy into it. What I put energy into sets up literally a high energy wave, a literal energetic pattern that's going to draw somebody in to do that to me. Mm-hmm. When they show up and do that, and they trigger that dissociated part of my mind, what I do is I use that hidden content in my mind to build my brain's construct of them. So now something really tricky happens. The part of my mind that I've denied and dissociated from and want to hide from is now integrated, massaged into my brain's image of them. And they show up in my mind with my problem attached, and I'm sure it must be their problem. Now, there's no solution to that in the world. People die of that. It's literally what aging, disease, and death is made of. But there is a solution in forgiveness. You take that worksheet. Now, of course, when you start, you're not going to be an expert at it. Have you done any worksheets today?
No.
Okay. So you've been in the sessions long enough that it's time. It's time to download the app or time to go print some worksheets off, or you can go to the website and you can do the worksheet right there on the website. It's time to start to just follow the instructions and fill in the blanks. And here's what will happen. Your projected perceptions of blame, when you start to use that tool, will collapse. Now, when they collapse in on themselves, which means that you're going to start to access the parts of your mind that you as an individual and your family system have probably been hiding from for generations, eons, lifetimes, perhaps. And that's not a fun process. That's not a Dr. Feelgood process, but that's how you do it. I don't know of another way to consistently, persistently free yourself from the mind of blame or guilt or sadness or grief or rage or hatred or vengeance or anything else. I don't know of another way. I've spent 50 years developing this work. And there's one way that I've found that people can consistently and persistently free themselves from the unconscious dynamics of their generations. And that's it. So that would be my offering, is put the pen to the paper and engage the worksheet.
So you mean also to free my family and all these from that, perhaps?
When I free myself from an energetic dynamic that has me and perhaps my whole family system in its grips, I open the space for everybody else that's trapped in that to get through that issue a little easier. I can't force them through it, but it's like, imagine that a really difficult family dynamic that's been going on for a long time. Let's use a metaphor. Let's take the sliding glass door that's stuck. And, everybody in my family, my parents, they all tried to nobody could get that door open. I have children, they're playing out the same dynamics. When I find the tool with which to get the door open, and this tool was presented on Earth over 2,000 years ago, and within a very few decades, it was disappeared. This work is the renaissance of that tool called forgiveness, the first time I know of it showing up again in the world. So it's like the sliding glass door has been stuck for 2,000 years, and everybody in the family system looks at it and goes, oh, there's nothing we can do about that. If you pick up the tool, you'll open the door. Now that the door is open, now maybe you'll get it 2 inches open or 3 or 5 or 6, but when you open it, everybody else in the family system has got a better chance of opening it further and going through it. Because it's like, if a family system is stuck in a particular energetic dynamic, and, it's like dad had it, mom had it, grandparents had it, it's been going on for a long time. It's like, people are locked on it. If you've ever played the parlor game where you grab a broomstick and you squeeze it as tight as you can for 2 minutes, and then you try to open your hand and the hand doesn't open because the muscles are locked in that position. Most people's mental, emotional, and spiritual muscles are locked around blame. And, when you first start moving a muscle that's locked up, oh, God, that hurts. That can be painful. That's why most people they want the solution, but they don't want to do the work because it means you have to face what's stuck in the tissue. But, that's how you can consistently, persistently move through those layers and those levels.
Okay, understand.
You mean like sorry.
And also, is it the same with self-blame?
With which?
The same process with self-blame. So
I'm not sure what the word is you're using. The same process with
self-blame, with blame.
self-blame. Yeah. Hate, fear, rage, guilt, grief, drama, trauma, vengeance, self and others of every form are all the same. They're all constructs of the mind. And in order to have the mind output a construct like that, whether it's self-blame or blame of others, doesn't matter, there has to be a mind energy complex in the mind that supports that. It's been going on for a long time. It's developed over a long time. If let's say, I've got a newborn child and I say to the newborn child, come on, I want you to come out and hit some golf balls with me. What's the newborn child say? Doesn't say anything, doesn't have any recognition whatsoever. Yeah. Child grows and I sit them in their little seat and I hit golf balls and I tell them this is a ball, this is a club, and this is how you hit it. What am I doing? Probably by the age of 4, that child's going to pick up a golf club and be able to hit a golf ball. But only because I've built a complex of thoughts into their minds, thoughts and images that make it possible for them to comprehend and do that. That's how, Tiger Woods, when he was born, didn't have a clue how to swing a golf club.
Yeah. But
you know something? I bet you if we had Tiger Woods' phone number right now, I assume everybody knows who Tiger Woods is. He's a famous American golfer. I would say if we had his phone number right now, we could call him, and I'll bet he's been on the golf course today. I'll bet he's out hitting, driving balls, chipping, putting. And he has a deep, deep well of mental capacity that's been built into his mind and his physiology, his nervous system, to be able to be a championship golfer. But you know something? He didn't do that by saying, oh, yeah, I'll tell you what, let's see, Yinka, I want to be a championship golfer. Would you go out and practice for me? And then next year, after you've practiced every day for a year, then I'll go out and I'll win the championship. Well, if Yinka practices, she's winning the championship. I'm not.
Yeah.
And so you have to face it. You have to do it. And it doesn't matter what the construct is. Again, in order to do a behavior of any kind, to have feelings of any kind, there has to be a complex built into the mind. Think about what it takes to take baby Tiger Woods to championship golfer. Gee, you hold your arm like this, you hold your head like that, you look at, you do this, you put the ball, you put the tee, you do this, you do that. 10,000 instructions, 10,000, maybe 30,000 hours of instruction for him to be able to pick that club up, hit that ball the way he does, 300 yards right down the middle. That's behavior is a result of a complex of energetic patterns in his mind. Guess what? Grief, rage, blame, sadness, hate, fear, guilt, drama, and trauma are the same. They're a result of a complex of energies built into the mind. And some people are so good at that pain and blame game, the complex is even bigger than what Tiger Woods got for playing golf. So what are you going to do about it? You go in and you start with step 1 and you remove the first piece and the second piece and the third piece and the fourth piece. You remove piece by piece those energetic complexes in the mind until the capacity to produce that result is gone. And at the same time, you start to build into your mind a construct for how you want to respond, how you want to feel, how you want it to be. And as you do those two things, you transition from one to the other. And there's no other way to do it that I know of. Dissolve what doesn't belong, structure in what you want to achieve. And that's where you'll end up.
I understand.
Cool.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And if you go to Why Again, whyagain.org, our website, in the upper left-hand corner, there's a button that says Start Here. Click that button, and it'll start walking you through the forgiveness process. Over the years on our radio show, we've done at least 20 different radio shows where we walk somebody through the forgiveness process, the worksheet process, step 1, step 2, walk them through the whole thing live on the show. There are at least 20 of those shows in our archives. that you can go, click on whyagain.org, start here, and you'll drill down to those shows. Start listening to them, and that will give you the instructions for how to do the process. With Yinka, there are at least we've done 3 or 4 different full worksheet processes with somebody. And so the videos are in the archives for doing that. So the instructions are there and it's all available.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. But I think I once did it with a start here, and I think I could not access. I mean, I don't know if I have done something wrong or what was the matter, but I don't know. But
Well, I'll tell you what. If you got your pen handy, make a note.
My mobile.
Okay.
Okay.
So if you would write an email to JEANIE, Jeannie, at WHYagain.org.
Okay.
So write Jeannie a note and ask her if she'll send you a link to the special archives of radio shows where we've done worksheets. Just ask her that question. So she'll send you back a link, click the link, and you'll be there.
Okay.
Okay. Cool.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Delighted. Honored.
I often get people come to me and say that I haven't got time, and I've been encouraging people to do worksheets on time. And last week I encouraged somebody and they went away and did worksheets through the week on time. And they came to me today and said that they've been able to relax just generally in their day. Like they sat and actually relaxed and watched TV. And they said, I seem to be finding time to do all the things that I say I haven't got time for. And they've been doing the worksheet every day.
Awesome. Well, let me tell you a story. And I'm not sure whether I've told this on our series here or not, but back a few years ago, Jeannie and I were teaching in Michigan, and there's a prison in a town called Ionia, Michigan, and it's a high security prison. It's an old Civil War facility, actually, and they brought all of the bothersome and trouble prisoners from the whole state of Michigan to this facility. It's a men's prison. Every man is there from 25 years to life in that prison. We went in and did a couple of weeks, a couple of sessions of Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And we have a teacher there locally who volunteered to go in and do a support group for these prisoners. He did, I forget exactly, 8 or 10 weeks. And there's a course that we actually developed specifically for the prison system. It's called Laws of Living. And the tradition has always been that the person who's in Laws of Living has to be responsible for their tuition for the intensive or for the workshop. In this case, these guys are in there from 25 years to life. They might, and I don't know if you know it, but in America, they say slavery has been abolished. Slavery's no more been abolished and fly in the air. In fact, it's specifically written into the Constitution that you can treat as slaves anybody that's in a prison. So they can make them work in the foundry or the dishwashing or whatever for 25 cents an hour. But a group of people came together and got really excited about this. And these men are locked in their cells 23 out of 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Unless they've got a job in the commissary or something, that's where they are. They get 1 hour a day to go out and exercise in the exercise yards. Otherwise, they're locked in their cells. So the requirement, the cost for them of going into this intensive experience in the prison was that they would do 5 worksheets a day for that period of 8 weeks. Came time for the intensive to start, and everybody that had been all excited and they wanted to do it showed up. Not one man had his 5 worksheets a day. And every man had exactly the same excuse. These are guys who are locked in a prison cell, 23 out of 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And you know what? They were all too busy. Now, if you've been on the, following us, if you've been part of this study group, we've invited you to do worksheets. Have you told yourself you've been too busy to do it? Well, creator, notice that you can create all the busyness you need and keep your drama and trauma going. And when you're sick and tired of being tired and sick, then maybe you'll change your mind and you'll start to do the work, or you'll move to the next level of doing your work. And, suffering is totally and completely optional in this world. But if people are brainwashed with suffering and they don't know that it's optional, they go, oh, well, that's just the way it is. There's nothing I can do about it. This is what you can do about it, but you've got to do it. It doesn't happen just by knowing, oh, there's a thing over there called forgiveness. It'll change my life. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's cool. But don't touch me with it. You got to face what's in there. It takes work to move through it. That's just part of the process.
It's helpful to remember as well, when you were saying about whatever you pushed it down with, that's what it's going to come up with. Like when those emotions come back up, it's just like that remembering it's only
Exactly.
something clearing, rather than seeing it as I'm in this emotion. And
yeah, one of our sessions for tonight, that was going to be tied in for tonight, is on healing crisis. And one of the foundations is where it comes out of Einstein's mouth, and Einstein says this: on such things as matter, we have been all wrong. What we have heretofore called matter is energy whose vibrations have been so lowered as to be perceptible to the senses. There is no matter. And when you realize you don't have a material body, your eye makes it look like solid physical stuff, but it's not, it's energy. And when you realize this energy field, when you bring a frequency into it that doesn't belong in it, a dis-ease energy, then that energy coming into the structure creates what we call symptoms. And most people hold their breath, drug themselves, eat junk food, rage, fear, whatever they do, in order to shut that down and hide it from themselves. That's been going on for all of us for 1,000 generations. Again, go back to how many times, how many instructions was Tiger Woods given to be able to hit the ball the way he does? How many times in regard to relationships have people in any of our bloodlines been brainwashed with fear and hostility and grief and rage? So when those energetic patterns are locked into tissue, and you decide to do what it takes to move through to the other side, guess what happens? The energy starts to come back out. When it comes back out, what do you suppose it's going to look like? It's going to look exactly the way it looked on the way in. And that's part of the process. It's one of the reasons why most people don't do it. It's like, wait a minute, you're asking me to look at and deal with all of that? Well, guess what? You're dealing with it at an unconscious level 24/7, 365 anyway. You might as well face it, process through it, and get the stuff out. And that's just the requirement of the process. And it isn't Dr. Feelgood to go through it. The symptoms of healing are identical to the symptoms of disease. There is no difference whatsoever, except in one case, the energy is coming in. In the other case, the same energy is going back out. It's part of the process. So who haven't we heard from? Who's got another thought for us? Not everybody all at once, though.
Oh, I'll go, and I hope
Go
I
for
can form this. Thanks. Really appreciate you guys. Appreciate this this time.
Awesome.
Thank you, Deacon.
It's Jane?
It's Jan. Yeah, that's okay.
Jane. Okay.
Yeah. I hope I can say this. I want to say this question in a way that it makes sense, even if my dyscalculia wants to punk me as though I can't. So there, yeah.
Okay, well, you got our support, so it'll work perfectly. I have good ears too.
I have been writing content so far to myself as an audience, and I think it renders the make of a book. And the symptoms, albeit I'm not a therapist or doctor amidst the space, But it sensates that what I'm writing about is dissociative disorder or avoidant disorder, and my model is a person met back when we were teens, and there was a look like a lens of befriendment had gone on, but really in essence, because they're the one who is frozen of not letting in their own sense of self, feeling great, so as they're physically existent, but they really don't interact with persons, and they think they can get by with not doing that by keeping things on a low vibration of talking and the like. And I find it interesting.
So they're kind of vacant?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Like it's a physical housing without any kind of most deepest that we can come from referencing and feeling that well, but yet they raised the kid, and they're not with physically showing symptoms of dis-ease, but I'm sure that that's going on, and I'm just looking at it, not horrified, but fascinated as to here's a model with which I will utilize as and it's a poor thing of their agonize of going through what it is that they go through, but it's also a huge, I can reach and go better, not making me better than they are, but there's this, I really want to show up for her who won't do this, and I'm really learning from them who is not. And so again, my question is, how does one stay in an embody on a planet for decades at a time, which we both have, and there's just, they get to exist, whereas I have fought tooth and nail to show up, and I really do get benefit from it, but the blur in between is, it's been hard anyway. If that makes sense.
I'm not sure I hear the question there, but let me just throw some feedback of what I am hearing and see where we go.
Okay.
It sounds like you have a really strong fascination with this person's situation in their lives. And whatever it is that's going on for them is triggering in you energetic patterns that produce a perceptual construct in you that is uncomfortable. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, we do a workshop called Codependence to Interdependence. And in it, what I do is I point out what I call the pseudo solutions of the non-being mind. And the number one pseudo solution that I point out of about a dozen different ones that most people use is, if I could just figure this out. And it sounds like in your discomfort, you're trying to figure this person out. And what I offer to people in my codependence workshop is, you can't figure it out. You can forgive it, but you can't figure it out. The discomfort in you around what's happening with that individual is the discomfort produced by your nervous system that is your work to do. And so what I'd suggest is, rather than your focus being on trying to figure them out, would be to begin to apply forgiveness to the discomfort that you're experiencing. And as you apply forgiveness to that, you may find that your fascination for them disappears, and what's going on for them. And you'll probably find yourself showing up as the presence of love that you are more powerfully. Oh, I hear you saying she's not showing up, or he, I don't know which it is, whoever it is, they're not showing up fully in their lives. And I have discomfort that seems to be about that, but I'd offer that the discomfort is about the part of you that isn't showing up fully in your life. So I just invite you, if I'm hearing you correctly, I'd invite you to do some worksheets around your discomfort and collapse that construct in your mind, and you'll show up on a whole other level. And maybe that's the very thing that this person needs to be pulled into the world and go, oh, here I am. Thanks for showing up for me. I didn't know how to really get through into the world. You know, there's a line in the worksheet that says, when I choose love, it wakes up the love in everyone. We live in a resonating world, a world of energy exchanges. And when I show up as love, you know, this is something that I've really learned from my granddaughter. She's now 4. We take care of her 3 days a week. And I knew this to some degree when my children were small, but not nearly to the degree that I've learned it from her. And that is that my job as her grandfather, and of course was as a father to my children, is to stand in the space of being active, present love with her, no matter what she does. And, you know, at 4, a child does some things that could easily go into disapproval. What I realize is there is no child that's ever been born that deserves disapproval. There's no child that's ever been born that deserves an angry look or an angry voice or a slap. No child has ever deserved that. And so what I recognize my job is with my granddaughter, what she's been teaching me is I know who she is as love. Sometimes her physiology doesn't show up that way, but my job isn't to pay attention to her physiology. My job is to pay attention to my physiology. And if I lose the capacity to function as love in her presence and hold to my awareness of her as love, I do her a disservice. And when I can hold to my presence of love and see only that in her, then through resonance, I can help her to draw that into her body and into her life and help her to ground that in this world, the truth of who she is, rather than the personality characteristics that she's inherited from her families and, you know, family systems and all of that, just to keep focused on her. And when I can't do that, gee, there may be something going on in her physiology that's traumatic or what have you, but if I'm not able to stand as a space of love, there's something going on in my nervous system I need to pay attention to and work on. And when I get to show up, she can be doing whatever she is, but there's no problem because I'm showing up. Does that make sense of where you're going?
It ever so much does. And it's why there was such emphasis on when I would run it's why I almost have run into him, literally with a car. But with it being so subtle and just like, whoa, blast like that, I've been working on myself. I know that, you know, deepest, what they go through is not my reflection, but it does help me to look at what it is about myself that is not showing up as though my nervous system can handle a new wayward of going forward fully because of me.
Yeah, if my nervous system can't deliver love into the world, can't be the funnel for love into the world in relationship to a certain person, it's because something that's resonating in me in response to them, that if I face and heal that, I'll be able to show up regardless of what they do. And if I can't, I can focus, you know, that religion, that world religion of blame. Oh, look at what they're doing. They're why I'm not loving right now. no, I'm not in the space and connected to love right now because there's something going on in my nervous system that doesn't allow me to fulfill my function as a human being, and that is to literally, actively pour love into the world. That's what humans are designed for.
Yep. That's why that was just so powerful, an experience with them. It's like, the pour down from the dimensions of, hey, sister, you can do this, and you interpersonally need to.
So I get the worksheet out, start doing worksheets and see what it is. What is it in you that's being triggered that you can bring to the surface and be finished with? He's giving you an opportunity.
Yeah.
So we'll hold the space and look forward to, maybe you'll report back on how those worksheets, what they bring up for you, what you touch into. Sweet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good questions. Yeah. Good. Nice.
Just as, Michael, that was a perfect example for me also. That is also fitting for me, and that was so helpful.
Yeah.
Awesome. We're in this together, aren't we?
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, that question was really helpful for me too. We have got Jane, who's got raised a hand for a question.
Yes. Hi.
Welcome.
Where do I start? I
At
have
the beginning.
I should have written them down. First thing, so I thank you, Yinka, for posting all Michael's work with you on YouTube, because this is how I actually discovered Michael this week. And
awesome.
I went straight into doing some working sheets. I did quite a few this week already, and then I started reading your book. I've only just started, so I'm curious as to when you follow the process. So say that so I can't remember who just spoke. Who was it that just spoke? So I call you by your name. Was it Jane?
Jane, yes.
Yeah. So Jane was sharing a particular issue with a person, something that brought something in her. So when that happens, do you just do one worksheet and then sort of wait to see what happens? Or do you just keep on doing the worksheet? Because sometimes it can take, a few days before things shift. If you go to the archives I was talking about on our website of the radio shows where we've done worksheets with people, as I say, there's a list of about 20 where we've literally walked somebody from step one all the way through the worksheet process. The second one in that list is what we call a Hydra worksheet. A woman named Magda, who'd been doing this work for about probably 6 or 7 years at that point, called into the show, and she's got a challenge going on between she and her significant other, and she wants support in doing a worksheet. So we started out, and there's a thing that I kind of affectionately call a Hydra worksheet. And if you look into Greek philosophy, there was a creature called the Hydra. And the Hydra was a creature that if you cut her head off, a dozen other heads grew out of the stump of her neck. Yeah.
So what you'll find when you do these worksheets in writing, if you're really paying attention and people who are really going for it, oftentimes what they do is they just have one printed worksheet. They have a nice notebook that they like to write in, something that's comfortable and easy for them to write in. And they literally use the one blank as a template, and they write the whole worksheet out. And what I've found is, and I'm saying this from my personal experience, what I've found is when I do the worksheet in writing, I don't do them in a notebook or a journal like some people do, but I always have at least a dozen blank worksheets. And what I find is when I do them in writing is I pay attention to subtle little thoughts that just kind of would sneak through and be gone if I weren't really paying attention. And I've found that overall, that when I do a single worksheet, I uncover at least 2 or 3 or 4 other worksheets to be done. So if I'm doing step one and, the step one is on my brother and what he did and then I remember that, oh, geez, I remember my girlfriend did that to me once. Oh, so now I'm going to go turn it over, start another worksheet where girlfriend is the subject of the worksheet and what happened there. I'll just do the outline of that second worksheet and I'll go back to the original and I'll keep going. And, that's the way to uncover hydras. So, pardon me, pay attention to what comes up, keep notes on what the hydra effect is and go for it.
Okay, great, thank you. And do you, is it best to write down the whole question every single time? Or do you just write your...
I've never done that.
Okay.
I always use the blank worksheet and fill in the blanks. That's me. But I've had other people who are like, I don't ever you fill in the blanks. As I say, I've got a notebook I like to write in and I write the whole thing out. And for many people, and I think it depends how your mind works in particular, that's a way to deepen contact with the subtler energetic patterns within the mind is to write the whole thing out. So I try it both ways and see which one works for you.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. Glad you're picking it up and using it. And where are you located?
And so I'm in Scotland at the moment, but I spend my time between France and the UK, and I'm back. I lived in London for 30 years, but I've been I went back to France during the first lockdown. I felt a call to going back, and then I found out that my mom had Alzheimer's, so I kind of knew why I was going back. So there's a lot of work that I want to do regarding her. It's lots of hydra hate.
Yeah. Well, if you either download the app, if you have questions, as you start working on it.
I just did it as you were talking.
Okay, great. So every page of the app has a button you can just push and send us a question. If you're on step 3 and go, this doesn't make sense. Okay. And so those questions go directly to Jeannie. She'll read them on the next radio show. We'll answer it live on the show. And then we'll send you back an email saying, here's the archive and how you can retrieve that answer. You can also, if you don't have phone access to the US, you can go to our website. There's a picture of a microphone. Drill down on the microphone and you can listen to the radio show live. And there's a chat room. There's a simple process. It's Blog Talk Radio is our facilitator for that. And in order to do the chat room, you have to set up an account with them, but they're very private. They don't use it. They don't sell your information or anything. You can set up an account and then you can ask questions live during the radio show right in the chat room. So if you have questions, just ask them and we'll answer them right there if you don't have phone access to the US.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome.
I must say, I find it absolutely wonderful because I like the message. I have no problems in completely getting the message behind it all and why you do things in that particular way. But you just seem to have found a way to bring what every single mystic and teachers on this planet are talking about in a really powerful, concise way. It's quite something.
Yeah. Well, let me burst your bubble a little bit. I didn't figure it out. I didn't bring that forward. I mean, I'm bringing it forward in the modern world, but actually, I'm the director of a foundation that's translating a copy of the oldest known New Testament in Aramaic into the English language. I'm bringing forward what was taught 2,000 years ago in Aramaic and what men have made into theology. But it isn't theology, it's psychology, it's genetics, it's physiology. It's the question of the ages. And the answer to it, that core of that forgiveness process is right straight out of the Aramaic. I didn't figure it out with this head. I was fortunate enough to interact with that original Aramaic language. And, we had 25 of the world's top Aramicists. And one of the first goals of the translation work was to establish the first century meanings of those words. That's where it came from. I've just had the blessing of being able to gather it and say, okay, now let's bring it into the world again, because it was disappeared pretty quickly.
So you still had a big role in doing it.
Delighted, glad it's serving you, honored. Yeah, any support we can be.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
we've got Jane Farnham with a question.
Go for it.
Oh, let me get on the screen here.
I see your hand.
Yeah. Oh, great. All right, that's better. Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you suggested this more in the flow kind of format. So I'm looking to evolve my experience in 3 areas. So I'll start with one and see where we go. And that is, several times I've heard you mention that we don't love anybody.
Right.
And so years ago, and you know, I'm slowly beginning to understand that I am love. And years ago,
Awesome.
I was introduced to a concept that, you know, learn to love everybody unconditionally, and, you know, involve yourself with certain people. So, you know, things of that nature. So, you know, I have friends in my life that when we hang up the phone, we say, I love you. And so what is a more evolved way of approaching that?
Well, my wife and I, still on occasion, will say the words, I love you. It's an old habit of the mind that we were both brought up with. But more often, we'll use the words, I cherish you, recognizing that in being the presence of love with her and her being the presence of love with me, we create a gestalt, a more powerful place for us to live in. And when I acknowledge that I appreciate that about her, I speak about cherishing. With my granddaughter, right from the time she started to use language, my wife and I would exchange a set of words on a regular basis in her presence. And it would be, my granddaughter calls Jeannie, my wife, Nini. And I would say, Nini, why are we here? And Jeannie would say, to be love. And then she'd turn back to me and say, Papa, why are we here? Oh, to be love. And now Ari at 4 is just as natural as saying, you know, I'd like a glass of water, to say, if I say to Arya, why are we here? Be love. She knows who she is. And it's just awesome to watch that unfold. Whereas if we, recognizing that the mind is a goal-oriented device, our language in directing it has to be accurate or it can't achieve a result. You know, if I inaccurately describe, you know, if I say, well, there are 2 cars out in the driveway, here's a set of keys, and you get to keep the car. You know, go out and get in that Mercedes out there, and it's yours. And by the way, a Mercedes is this yellow looking sort of half round car. It's short. It's half round. It's got VW on the wheels. Drive it away and you'll have your own Mercedes. If I gave her the wrong verbal instructions, she's going to drive away in a Volkswagen and leave the Mercedes sitting in the parking lot. If I tell people, go for loving each other, which was never said in the ancient scriptures, then people are going to go for loving each other and forget that the goal was to function as love, to develop a mind that supports them functioning as a human being, as love. And those who are in denial, those who don't want to clarify their own minds, I mean, I get all kinds of arguments. Oh, well, you know, what's the difference? Maybe we can do love and be love. And man, it's like, go for what you like, but you're not driving away them with
Can't hear you.
You're not going to function as love unless you know what functioning as love means. And if we use inaccurate words. So what we usually speak of is how we cherish each other.
Okay, great. I love that. You know, in the morning when I do my meditations, I say, I treasure you, I cherish you, I appreciate you. So I'm familiar with the concept. Great.
Okay.
And
Awesome.
Another question I have is, I've heard you say you don't send love or you don't send healing energy. So, you know, on a pretty regular basis, people say to me, I have a headache or I have this. And, you know, the old whatever language is, I'll send you the healing white light. So
I don't see a problem. For me personally, I don't see a problem with, I can visualize white light and send it. And I think that will become a carrier for the presence of love extended in the direction of that person. And I think it is supportive, and it will open the space. It's interesting. I did a conference a few years back. I was keynoting a conference, and there was a fellow there who was a medical doctor. And let's see the name of his book. I'm not recalling the name of his book offhand, but he wrote a book. They did clinical research in a hospital on prayer. And what they found was that they got clinically significant results when people would center in on someone who was sick. And rather than saying, I'm going to fix you, I'm going to fix that, I'm going to change this, I'm going to change that, if they just held that person in love, it was non-directed, that's where they got the clinically significant results in healing. So I think that whatever it takes for me to totally focus into the space of being as functioning as love, and then as I see it, when I'm extending healing towards someone, when I hear of someone who's in pain, in trauma, what I'll do is I'll imagine extending and opening the space of my field and embracing them in that love. So it's literally extending my presence to them rather than I love you. It's extending an energy, opening energetically to them in support.
Like radiating, radiating. Care,
yes.
Radiating
that would be
love.
it.
Yeah.
That would be it.
And my last thing is around loss, when, someone loses a friend or even a pet. I recently experienced a loss, and someone said to me, someone I know very well, someone who I've, shared a lot of vulnerable things with. He said, I really don't want to say I'm sorry for your loss. He said, I want to say in time, I trust it's going to be an opening for you, and you're going to come to see it as a gift. And I just thought that was an evolved way of, saying that.
I agree. My take is that the reason why people have pain and trauma around someone who dies, for instance, is because they either have unresolved issues with that person, or they have pain they haven't faced and resolved around death. In every case where I've seen someone work through that, the passing of another individual was a joyful and uplifting experience. Not saying that, I would love to have them back, but I think that, like something we don't do with our granddaughter, like we went away for 2 weeks. I didn't get back and say, oh, sweetie, I missed you so much, because I'm brainwashing her into developing a mind complex of missing. And she doesn't have to miss me. If I'm here, I'm here. And if I'm not, I'm not. But if we build into the mind, I miss you, then, and that, of course, implies pain, then somebody leaves to go on vacation or dies, and we're going to generate pain. That's part of creatorship. And we don't need to do that. I know when it was been about 5 or 6 years ago now, when my mother passed, I got to spend the last week with her full time. We got to hang out and play and eat ice cream. And when she left, it was, I cherish you so deeply. You've been such a gift in my life, and I hold the space for your journey. And I have a little symbol, actually, something that way back years ago, some friends were into firing figurines, and I had fired one for her. And so I found a similar figurine, which I keep in my room at the end of my bed. And every time my eyes fall, it's just, hey, Mom, how you doing? It's just keying in with her. And it's been an experience of just being the space with her. It's not about physical presence. So that's my take on it.
Great, thank you. It's really enlightening. I appreciate what you said, and it just brings to mind to celebrate the death, celebrate it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, and is it really, is it just our perspective? Is it really a death? I mean, you think about it, if are we in the womb of creation? If we're in the womb with a twin and the twin leaves the womb, it looks like a death to us. Oh, they're not here anymore. They're gone. But on the other side, there's a joyful reception for them. Is it a death? Is it something to be sad about? No, but if there's sadness in here, our whole culture has brainwashed us that the world and events create the feelings that move in us. And my offering is what creates the feelings that move in us is our thoughts. And when we rid ourselves of disintegrative energy, then there is no pain to be experienced from disintegrative energy because it's not there. And each experience becomes another moment of life.
True.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts for you, young lady?
No, just very enlightening, very enlightening. And I, years of being in 12-step rooms have taught me that if there's something going on, it's me. And I need to look at myself and take an inventory and share it with someone else and write about it and ask,
what am I swimming in?
Higher power, to remove that defense. It's a defense for a reason, and it's in me. Yeah.
Sweet. Awesome. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Appreciate it. Ray, you have a thought for us?
Yeah. Well, like listening to you talking, feel like it's very enlightening, and I might have some answers already, but I still want to share. So I feel like I'm an empath. I'm very empathic, and some part of me always attract, those narcissistic people in my life. I feel like they can, take advantage of me, and I'm very aware that it's by the end of the day, it's all about me, my emotions, understand my trauma and try to heal them, and try to accept myself. But at the same time, I also hear people like some guide or psychologists, they're talking about speaking your boundaries, like remove the people who make you feel less. Well, I did.
Big flag with that one. Big flag with that one. Anybody who thinks that somebody outside of them can make them feel anything is lying to themselves.
Yeah, that's happened to me. I decided to remove those people from my life. I feel, well, like it's necessary, but at the same time, I feel bad because it's all about myself. It's all about me. Like I project my, emotions and trauma outside. But, I still
actually,
can I offer you? Yeah.
Yeah, can I offer you a piece of feedback on that thought? I project my trauma outside. Let me just offer a different perspective on that.
Okay.
The culture teaches that projection is taking something that's inside of me and putting it outside of me. I'd offer that's not projection. Projection is what happens when there's something in me that I've dissociated from. By dissociating from it, hiding it from myself, I energetically draw somebody in to play it out with me. when they play it out with me, when they touch that part of me that I've hidden, that part of me resonates. And I build a construct called perception out of what they've touched in me. And I use that information to build a picture of them in my mind, to build my perception of them. That is projection. Projection is a totally internal experience. It's when I take something that I haven't resolved in me and I make pictures of what I think are other people.
Yeah.
That's projection. Then when I put it outside of me or pretend it's outside of me, then I'm externalizing. The pretense that it's out there is externalizing what I've projected. When I realize that, the whole idea is that the forgiveness process collapses my projections. It collapses literally the perceptual content of my mind. You know, one of the fun things that happened several weeks ago with my granddaughter, she's 4. She's very much into anatomy and physiology. She'll sit for an hour and a half or 2 hours and watch one video after another on YouTube on going through the body, anatomy and physiology, the heart, the lungs, the brain. It's amazing to watch her. We were watching a video on anatomy several weeks ago, and she had asked to watch it because she was making, she likes to play with Play-Doh, and she was making body parts. When she showed an interest in anatomy, we got her a 12-inch skeleton with all the organs and muscles and bones. You can take it apart and put it back together. She loves it, but she likes to make Play-Doh parts of the body and put them in this skeleton we call Mr. Skinny. And one day she was making some intestinal parts, and she said, "Papa, I want to watch that video on the body." I said, "Okay." So we go and I get it turned on and we're watching it, and it's a cartoon outline of a human form and all the organs in it. And then the organs kind of fall out of the body onto the ground in order of size, and each organ sings a song to the child. It's kid's anatomy, sings a song to the child and tells the child what it does. So it comes time in this video for the eyes to sing. And the eyes sing, "I am your eyes, I am your eyes, I see the world around you." And Arya turns to me and says, "Papa, they don't understand, do they? We don't see with our eyes, we see with our brain." I've never said that to her, but at 4, she's figured that out. So when I perceive, when I have a picture, I'm not seeing that picture with my eyes. You can't see out through your eyes. That's one of the biggest frauds the world has ever given us. You've never seen anything through your eyes, but your eye receives light information, and that light information resonates brain cells, content, and that content literally projects the world that you see. So when you realize that, there's a controller for the world that you see, and that controller is goals. What forgiveness does is it collapses the projections from one's own mind. And that's the only thing that can cause feelings, aside from, cancel the thought, being punched in the nose. The only thing that can cause feelings in us is the movement of energetic patterns within us. But if we're building pictures of other people out of those energetic patterns, we can say, "He made me mad. She hurt me." And what I want to do, and what happens with the forgiveness process, is you collapse that whole structure in your mind. And when you do, then you get to confront or experience what's beneath it, what's been hiding underneath it. And when you bring that original hidden content, and it might be 10 generations old, when you bring that forward in the presence of active love, it dissolves. And it's that dissolution that is forgiveness.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, the intergeneration passed down, especially in the context of, different country like China. We've been told what should we do as a child. It's kind of like imprinted in you, and
right.
Yeah, a lot of trauma. My parents, they had a lot of trauma and then passed down to us. And, I won't stop from me. So it takes a lot of awareness. But yeah, what you
Takes
said
some
is
serious
really,
work.
Yeah.
But when you apply forgiveness, what happens is those projections, which are internal, picture-making capacity out of content, the core purpose of forgiveness is to collapse that. And by collapsing it, you get access to the direct underlying traumatic energy. And that's when you can move that out of the structure.
Yes, thank you.
Free yourself of those generational patterns.
Thank you. Very useful.
Awesome. And I'm just inclined to go a step further with that and recognize there's some interesting Harvard research. This is stuff we've covered before, but it fits perfectly here. It's actually the most quoted research in psychological history, in the study of psychology. Goes back into the 50s. And what they showed at Harvard was that in a time frame where 10,000 brain cells were firing, there are 10,000 measurable units of electrical activity moving in the brain, that the maximum amount of data that goes into that construct called perception is 9 bits. So 10,000 measurable units of electrical activity, 9 bits go into the world we see, the perceptual construct of our mind. And so you start to realize that perception has a quality, and you can improve the quality of perception by removing the underlying traumas involved in painful perceptions. So how do you do that? And this is where the forgiveness process comes in. And this literally took me 35 years to understand, working full time with the first century Aramaic forgiveness process. It took me 35 years to be able to explain what I'm going to explain in the next 60 seconds. And that is, when you realize there are 9 bits of data in your perception while 10,000 brain cells are firing, what selected which 9 bits of data out of all those possibilities? What selected which 9 bits of data that are being used to produce this pained perception? And what it is your goals. You'll notice, unless you're just a really generally miserable person, you've never been upset with anybody as long as they're achieving all of the goals you hold for them, right?
Yeah.
You're only upset when they're not fulfilling a goal that you hold.
Yeah.
What does that mean? What it means is that you loaded a goal in your mind that caused your mind to use unconscious pained content to produce this perception, this 9 bits of data. Now, in the Aramaic language, the word forgive is shabag or shabak, and it literally means to cancel. Now, in a given interaction, if I'm in pain and you and I interact, and canceling you is murder, that's probably not a good idea. Canceling myself is suicide, not a good idea. But in every situation, I can always cancel the goal that's driving my pained perception. And when I cancel the goal that's driving my pained perception, it collapses in on itself. When it collapses in on itself, I have access to what's underneath it. Now, instead of projecting this content into my brain's image of you, if you're the one who resonated my pain, I make a picture of you made out of my pain and I say, look how much you hurt me. When I recognize the goal that's causing my mind to use that particular data to create this particular pain perception, then I cancel that goal. And when I cancel that goal, that perceptual construct collapses. It collapses in on itself. Now, a moment ago, when I was blaming you for it, I'm feeling my pain. I'm having a relationship with my pain, but my relationship with my pain is through you, and I think it's all your fault, and you're the cause of my pain. Because I'm in an indirect relationship with my hidden pain. But when I cancel the goal that I hold for you and collapse into the root of that pain, I get to bring that pain forward. And I'm now in direct relationship with it. It's not Dr. Feelgood, as I said earlier, but when I bring that directly forward in the presence of active love, that pain dissolves. It's gone in an instant. And that's how forgiveness works from the first century Aramaic. In any given situation where I have pain or trauma, it's the family and they're doing that old family thing. They're trying to force me into the way they want me to act. What's my goal? Well, I just want Dad to honor my path in life rather than trying to force me to follow a path he thinks I'm supposed to, because our tradition says I'm supposed to follow that path. So what am I going to do? What's forgiveness going to look like? I cancel my goal for Dad to honor the choices I make. Now, that whole pain perception around Dad trying to force me into his mold collapses. And when that pain comes forward directly and I bring it to the presence of love, it's dissolved and I'm freed of it. And guess what? Dad's likely going to be freed of it at the same time. So I'm going to notice this effect when I hit and I deal with the core of that issue with Dad. Guess what's going to happen? I haven't had a conversation with Dad in 10 years where he hasn't tried to push me into that path he wants me in. But you know what? I did this worksheet yesterday. Dad called and said hi, and he never said a word about that. And I said, well, I'm going off to do this and that. And he said, great, you got my support. Like, why did he change? Because energetically, the part of me that's connected with him changed. But energetically, as long as I needed him to be the bully in my life, unless he's very conscious, he's going to be the bully. So that energetic interaction that we have with each other, and we clean up our end of it, it's kind of like a game of tug of war. If you're playing tug of war and you let go of your end of the rope, their game has to change. It's just the way it is. You can't play tug of war with somebody who puts the rope down. You can't inflict trauma on people who have cleaned up the trauma in themselves. And it changes the whole game.
Yeah. It takes a lot of work though.
Oh, it's work. There's no question about it. I mean, it's what the masters, what the teachers, what the philosophers have been pursuing for thousands of years. So yeah, it's definitely some work, but so worthwhile.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. Delighted. Gina, you've got a thought for us?
We've got Corey next.
Oh, okay. Excuse me. Corey.
Yeah, I have what you said just now, right now, about the goal. Is it on your website? And the other question is, I have now the codependency worksheet found, and there is a list with questions, right? And I need to answer the questions.
Yeah, in doing that worksheet, that's what you do.
Yeah.
So the worksheet process, how do you get to? As I said earlier, there are at least 20 radio shows where we walk people through the whole thing. Go to your app store on your phone and put in Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness. There's how you do it. It's all right there. Just open the app. There's the worksheet. Start filling in the blanks.
Yeah, I have here that worksheet, no? Right, with the questions. Yeah, am I right? Or I don't know. I have here now that worksheet with the codependency.
Okay, so far we've been talking about the reality management forgiveness process, not the codependence worksheet. That's a separate worksheet.
Yeah, I know, but that was before the question, well, I don't know, I do not remember the name of Joan, or I think she had the question, and you said to work on the codependency worksheet.
Yeah, well, that's another one. There are many different tools, many different worksheets that we have. Yeah. I'm not sure what session you're talking about where I suggested someone do the codependency worksheet, but
No, not,
It's
no, that
it's
was before. I think it was Joan before. She asked something about someone is not, I don't know, calling her or something. And on that, you answered with a codependency word.
He wasn't recommending doing the worksheet. He was mentioning about the codependency course.
Okay. Oh,
so there is a worksheet on the website. It's pretty self-explanatory that you can go into, and it's something we do in our codependence to interdependence workshop. That's not something we've covered in this series. We're basically focused on the book Why Is This Happening to Me Again and the forgiveness process. But the codependency worksheet is another tool that we have, one among many tools we have. The core one is the forgiveness process. From what you were sharing earlier, I'd suggest you start with the forgiveness worksheet, the reality management worksheet, and that's the one that's in the app.
Yeah, and what you told about the goal, is that also on the website? Because I think I did not find that.
That's the core of the reality management forgiveness worksheet that I'm talking about. That's the core of what's in the app. That's the whole core of that process.
Yeah, that's inside there.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Download the app, Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness, in your app store. And then you go right in, the worksheet's right there, and it'll take you right through to the goal, identifying the goal. What's the situation about? What's the goal? Cancel the goal and move through the process.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. And as far as codependency goes, as Inka was saying, there's a course that we have, an online self-study course, if anybody's interested in doing that, on codependence to interdependence. So that goes through the forgiveness workshop, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? Healing through relationships. Communication, did you hear what I think I said? And codependence to interdependence. It's actually a 90 hours of self-study that's available if somebody wants to do a self-study course on this work. And it includes, one of the things we do is what we call a personal code evaluation. And in the personal code evaluation, people answer a series of questions, and we feed back where the blockages are in the mind and give specific assignments to do during the course. So that's another course that we have. If you're interested in doing a self-study, there are we walk through step, much as when I present the tool here, we're doing the teaching work with each of those workshops tied together, and it's a 90-hour self-study if you're interested in that.
Yeah, thank you very much. Now I understand.
Awesome. Sweet.
Shall I go next?
Go for it.
Okay. We've talked a lot about grief tonight, and I'm very grateful about that. And you shared your lovely experience with your mother. My mother, well, she got ill, unfortunately, at the wrong time for me because of struggling after James's passing, and I've got a lot of grief around that. And you said something really interesting, that means we've got unresolved issues. So I'm guessing it's worksheets to try and resolve those issues with myself.
That's how you do it.
Yeah, and my mother, she didn't have a very nice passing. I don't know if I touched on this at the beginning. She put my brother in charge of her care, and he put her in a nursing home, Michael. He put her in a nursing home for the last week of her life. And I've done lots of worksheets on my brother and this anger. And, well, not lots, but I've done a few. And, you talked about your mother's passing and how beautiful it was. I actually got a taxi to go and see her because I've got this big fear around driving now.
Right.
I don't go out anymore. I don't. And I actually got a taxi, a 3-hour each way drive to see her. And I had the most precious 5 minutes with my mother that I've ever had in my life, that I've been
That's
yearning.
awesome.
Isn't it awesome? That I've been yearning for my entire life. And,
and you've been doing your work, and you're getting some of the fruit of your work. That's fabulous.
Oh, okay. But I just wish she had a better time of it, really, in her end. And I wish I'd spent more time with her. Yeah,
So
there's a
guess what?
go on, do the worksheets. I know. Is that right?
Guess what?
What?
You can get quiet and you can still spend time with her.
Yes.
She doesn't
Well,
need to
so
be in her body for you to do that.
no. What I did though tonight before I came on the call, as I cut the cords. I cut all of the ancestral cords in the Akashic Records room and burnt all those contracts, you know. I don't know if that was the right thing or the wrong thing, but I did do that.
Sounds like, you know whether it was right or wrong. You don't have to disclaim your power. You know exactly what it was. You told us earlier how powerful it was.
All right. Okay. All right.
Why would you discount yourself?
Well, yeah. Why? Yeah.
Yeah, why? That's a good question to ask yourself. Might be helpful.
Right. Okay.
Let me just share another. You brought your son up several times. Let me share one that came to one of our intensives at Heartland in Missouri back. No, this is probably 15 years ago. And her son was a truck driver, and he was out west and was in an accident. Was killed in the accident. And she went out to the site of the accident. She just was driven to do that, and she found a shirt of his at the accident site. And she kept it, and for several years, it was like her most prized possession. She came to an intensive at Heartland, and healing around her son's death was what was up for her. She did some writing, some worksheets and some writing, and all of a sudden, she found her son guiding her hand as she wrote. And what he wrote to her through her hand was, "Mom, please burn that shirt. You're holding on to me, and I'm earthbound, and I can't let go until you do that."
How interesting.
And she was able to just totally free him and let go of him and move back to a space of connectedness and love with him whenever she thought of him. So that was his request of her in writing through her hand. Changed her relationship with her son who'd passed.
It's the hardest thing. It's the hardest thing.
That's a thought. That's a thought, Gina. Now, notice you can make things hard. You shared with us before how you spent a very early childhood learning how hard things are. And you can keep creating things to be hard, or you could change that and go, "Oh, that's what I need to do. Oh, I can do that," and just do it. Or you can keep making things hard. It's up to you. You're the creator of what happens in your world, in your life.
So I just let go.
There you go.
Right. I also, okay, I'll take that. Hopefully I'll do something.
Nice.
Like that. But I liked what Jane said about when she was talking about loss, and I don't know, was some guy or something said, a friend said, "I'm not going to say I'm sorry for your loss," but she worded it in such a way, and I'd like to hear that repeated, Jane, if you're there still, that in time you'll be grateful for this, or something like that. It was how it was put.
Yes, Gina. He said, and I've known him for a while, long enough for him to know, my family and things of that nature. And so he said, I don't want to say I'm sorry, Jane. He said, because I believe that you're going to come to see the gift in this, and that there's going to be an opening and a freeing in your life. And it was interesting because I then came to see, well, it's about my sister died from cancer. And, well, when she died, it was like thank God. It's a blessing because, you know, we didn't want her to suffer. And so there was that. And then I just came to see more that how do I say this? That it really was a gift. I started to see that, wow, she lived 75 years, most of her life. She was really healthy. She was deeply connected to her 2 grandchildren. And just, you know, seeing it in that light has been really helpful.
Oh, so I wonder how, I mean, the gift of my son passing has shown me how strong I am because I'm still here. But letting go, I've you know, as you said, Michael, I am keeping him tied to this earth, aren't I, by holding on, and I can't help it.
That's
But
it.
yeah, I hear that. Yeah. So do I cut cords with my son, or I just say I let you go, or?
Well, it sounds like you've had some experience and some practice. Actually, there's a fairly simple process that I've developed that I use with people in doing that. If you'd like to do that right now, we can do it. It only takes a minute. It's really simple. And anyone who's, you know, got something you'd like to let go of, something you'd like to work through, if you'd like to do it, I'll guide you through it.
Okay. Do I need a pen and paper or not?
No. Only your brain is needed.
Okay.
And so anyone who has someone in your life that you've got emotional attachments to that you'd like to let go of. So this takes one out of the emotional, you know, Ferris wheel and releases those energetic patterns. So I'm just going to ask you to close your eyes and breathe, follow directions. And so I'm going to ask you to start out and imagine that I have 2 pencils made of light. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use those pencils made of light to guide you to the seat of your unconscious, where you can let go of those painful energetic patterns. And so imagine that I'm going to take one of those pencils of light and I'm going to place it right down through the very top center of your head, your crown. And then I'm going to take the second pencil of light and insert it right through what you would call your third eye. And what I'm going to ask you to do is imagine that I'm inserting those 2 light beams into your brain and allow your awareness to go to the place where those 2 light beams meet. And when you're there, Gina, just let me know.
Well, I imagine it's sort of somewhere in the middle, around the top third of my head.
Yes. Yeah, just imagine the 2 pencils of light going and where they meet. Just let your awareness focus there. And then allow a picture of your son to come to mind while you're focused there. And his name is?
James.
James. So allow yourself to be focused there. And when you got a picture of him, let me know.
Yeah.
And everyone else who's doing it, whoever you're doing this process with, just get a picture of them. And now while you're focused there, speaking out loud, you remember we talked about Ruka-Dekucha, this elemental force in us from the Aramaic that undoes things for us. So, and we'll just short form it to Ruka, I release all attachments to James.
Well, I normally call in God, Jesus, Holy Spirit, Rukadi Kushta. Help me release all attachments to James. In Jesus' name. It's done.
Now, I have seen that produce monumental changes in people's lives. So we'll just invite you to work with that, see what happens. Maybe our next session, you'll report back what you experience.
Okay. It's
Awesome.
not something I'm enjoying doing. It's not something I want to do. My arms are reaching out and grabbing, no, in metaphorically speaking.
So it's time to let go.
Yeah. Wow. That's sad, actually.
So are you experiencing anything in your hands?
In my hands?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Okay. I'm just asking you to check out whether there are any sensations there or in
well,
your head.
A sadness. I feel sadness.
Okay.
Mm.
Anything happening in your physically in your brain?
In a small way, it feels like it's defragmenting, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, oftentimes it'll show up kind of as a tingling sensation.
Yeah, maybe a slight tingling there. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Awesome.
Wow. Okay. I didn't enjoy that, Michael. I will tell you that.
Understood.
Mm.
More worksheets. Some more forgiveness to be done in those old trauma patterns.
Mm-hmm. How do I deal with my mother, though? That's the question.
Well, let's just do one at a time. You've done this. Let this settle in. And then a week or so from now, let your, when you're starting to take apart some of those old energetic attachments, it can take some time for that undoing and the reassembly. So give it about a week or so and then do the exact same thing with your mom.
My brain does feel like it is buzzing and tingling, It's a funny sensation, Michael.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So
That's
what
it.
is happening? What is happening with that?
Well, you don't need to figure it out. You notice that your brain wants to go and figure it out. Just be with the energy moving. It's just an undoing. It's just letting go of the attachment energies. Remember, we're energetic beings. It's just letting go of the energy.
Okay. Well, I think I appreciate that.
All right. Awesome.
I will just say thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, just thank you. Okay.
All right. Delighted. Blessings. All right. Well, anybody else got any other thoughts for us? Well, Miss Yinka, what do you think? Shall we close our session out?
Yeah, we can do that, yeah. That was a really good session, actually, and I'm glad we did this because it was definitely stuff that I needed to hear.
Awesome. That's what we're here to do.
I think it was a brilliant session. It was informal and it was just actually wonderful how it flowed. So yeah, thank you very much.
Delighted.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you. Glad you joined us.
Michael, it's really nice to be in the presence of someone who is loved and who's living in right livelihood. So many people would be like looking at their watch and, am I getting paid how much an hour for this? And it's so inspiring to see that you have such a passion for this work. You just like, you are the work. I love witnessing it. So thank you.
Well, for the last 4 years, my wife and I have been living somewhere, but the previous 40 years before that, I would go anywhere on the earth I was invited to present this work. I paid my own expenses and my workshops were free. So the objective is simply to make the work available. Yes, it's nice when support comes, especially since we're not traveling anymore, but we're here to make it available, whatever situation people are in.
Michael, can I just say, it's very freeing. I'm feeling, yes, I'm feeling freer.
That's the idea, young lady. Holding on's a tough thing to do.
Wow.
Very, very.
Wow. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Yinka. Thank you, Michael. Wow.
Honored and delighted.
Lots of appreciation for Michael and everyone for joining, because we can't teach it without the people. It's definitely more fun teaching it with people.
Yinka, your little brooch, does that change colour? Because I'm sure that was silver earlier.
It's not a brooch, it's a jacket that heats up. So right now it's on the hottest, that's why it's red. And then once it gets too hot, it'll go down to white and blue.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought I was hallucinating.
No, it's a heated jacket.
Oh.
It's rather cold in this room. So yeah, heating myself up.
Didn't know. How do you make the heat come? If that's not a stupid question.
Yeah, it's got a chargeable battery.
Oh right, okay. Wow. How do you generate the power? Is probably a more better way of putting that. How do you make the heat come? Dear, my brain is scrambled. Michael Rice.
Yeah.
Well, just breathe and be with it, and let all the distractions go. Excuse me.
Oh, bless you, bless you, bless you, bless you.
And a good
all right.
cup
Well,
of
thank
tea.
you all. And a good cup of tea, that can help. Yes.
Cup of tea. Oh yes, I ran out of milk the other day, and I had to go to the. Oh my God! And I had to go. I didn't want to go because even going to the shops is like trying to climb Mount Everest. And you know what happened? I mentioned.
Well, you can create it any way you like, young lady. Any way you like. You can keep doing the trauma game, or you could let go of it. And one of the ways to let go of it is you let go of it. You don't have to tell anybody about it anymore. You don't have to talk about it. You can just go, oh, well, I let that one go, and be done with it.
So this fear of driving, then I could do the crayon technique with that.
All of the above. Just give yourself time between experiences to let yourself process it.
Yeah, but anyway, what actually happened was I was quite gung-ho with the driving that day, and then my brake caliper got stuck. And it's all fixed now. It's all fixed. Now my mouth is going now. I'll be quiet now. Just so much gratitude.
All right, young lady, you have a blessed one.
And you.
Thank you, everyone. And
thank you. Thank you.
We've got 5 a.m. meditation tomorrow for anybody that wants to join the 5 a.m. meditation. And we'll see you all soon.
All
right. Blessings. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Yinka.
Thank you.